Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another rules breakdown. And this week we're going to be covering Twilight 2013, the official Twilight 2000 version 3.0. Now, there's a new version of Twilight 2000 in a Kickstarter at the moment, so these rules are going to be superseded. And I have to admit, these are very complex rules. I think it's overly complex, so I'm only going to be briefly going over them. These rule breakdowns are always only just a touch on the rules to get you through the first session or so, but this, more than ever, is going to be missing out a bunch of stuff, just doing the very, very basics. So, if we turn to one of the sample NPCs, they're on page 317. Let's use a thieving marauder here. We can see he's got attributes: awareness 9, cognition 6, coordination 6. He's also got skills here: deception, he's a professional, fieldcraft novice, etc. Now, what do those mean? Well, they've got a number rating or they've got description. So if we turn to page 79, we can see how the number rating transfers into a rating. So he had, what was it? Awareness 9. So 9 converts across to professional. And that means that for any skill roll, they're rolling 3d20 and choosing the lowest against a target number of their skill. Although that might be modified. If we turn back to page 70, we can see difficulty numbers here. So if something's trivial to do, they get a +5 to their skill target number. So 9 becomes 14. If it's laughably easy, +4, easy +2, normal +0, impossible or worse, -5. So if something's impossible, he's going to be rolling against target number 4. Now we go back, and it was 3d20 choosing the lowest. So let's say it's normal. They're rolling against a 9. So they roll a 15, a 3, and an 18. So 3 is the lowest, and that succeeds. So they have succeeded in their task. However, if any of their other dice had succeeded as well, they'd basically get a +2 bonus to the skill. They would succeed better. Now, also worth reminding is there's qualifications here. So while a character might have, the example given is surgery, that doesn't mean that they're qualified to do brain surgery and all other types of surgery. Those might have qualifications. So while you've got the general skill, but not the specific skill if it's required, you can do ordinary surgery at whatever ranking you've got. But if that specific skill roll requires a qualification, then you roll on 3 ranks lower. Let's see. Effective rating in the skill is reduced by 3 levels, a penalty equal to that inflicted by a serious wound. So if you're a professional, you're rolling 3 ranks lower, you're rolling as a novice. So you're just rolling 1d20 instead of 3d20 and choosing the lowest. Now for initiative, if we turn to page 137, we can see that initiative is based on the observe, orient, decide, act roll. But it's also based on your encumbrance. So if you're overloaded, your base initiative is 5. If you're unencumbered, then your base initiative is 15. And then you make an OODA roll, an observe, orient, decide, act. So going back to the NPCs, as I said, page 317 and thereabouts. Let's go back to a thieving marauder. They have an OODA of 6. So again, we go back to the skills. 79 they were on. And a 6 is a competent 2d20, choose the lower. So they make an 11, which isn't a 6, and they get a 3, which is a 6. So now they get to add, because they succeeded, their OODA doubled to their base initiative. If they'd failed, they would just be using the base initiative. So they succeeded, so they get to add 12, so they go in 27. Now, starting at the highest, everybody gets to act, and the 27 is called a tick. So in 27, a character gets to act, and every tactical action takes a certain amount of ticks. So to activate, deactivate equipment takes 1 tick. To change stance takes 2 ticks. To communicate, 1 tick for a single syllable, 3 ticks for a short sentence, 5 ticks for a moderately eloquent sentence. We have reload, equal to the weapon's bulk, minimum of 1. So a larger weapon takes longer to reload. We have attack speeds, so they are based on the weapon. So the example here is Matt's AK-47 has a speed 357. A hip shot with it costs 3 ticks, a snapshot costs 5 ticks, an aim shot costs 7 ticks. The rifle has bulk 3, so a hip shot incurs a -3 penalty. So you get a lower skill for hitting with a hip shot, but it goes faster. So if somebody going in 27 does a hip shot, then they next go in 24. 3 ticks later, because they've used 3 of their ticks. And that's how initiative works. The higher initiative, the more actions you get, but things like aimed shots, which are more accurate, will take longer and require more ticks. And you count down through the actions until 0, and everybody's used up their actions. So to hit, it's an ordinary skill roll. So we're going to be looking up our NPC's skill. So we're back to page 319. There we go, the Thieving Marauder. Now he has hand weapons professional. So going back to page 79, we see for professional, he's rolling 3d20, choose the lowest. And you add targets for moving targets, the size of the target, and so on. But let's say he's rolling against a target number 9. So he's rolling, he gets a 17, which fails. He gets a 14, which fails. And he gets a 6, which succeeds. So he's managed to hit the target. And when you hit a target, of course, you've got to work out whereabouts you've hit. And the hit location chart works going from the left side of the body across and from the top of the body down by rolling 2d6. So we roll 1d6 and we've rolled a 2. So we're hitting the left side of the body. And then we're working our way down and we've rolled a 6. So we hit their left ankle or foot. If we'd rolled the opposite way around, so if it had been a 6 and a 2, we'd have hit the right side of the body and their right elbow or forearm. So first dice across, second dice down, or vice versa, as long as you're consistent with it, I suppose. Also worth bearing in mind is burst fire and recoil. So some weapons, assault rifles, etc., have an amount of bullets it can fire as a burst. So let's say you're firing an assault rifle, which can fire a 4-round burst. Well, that means you're getting a +3 to hit, because there are more bullets flying through the air to hit the target. However, you also get modified on how well the recoil affects you. So you make a strength roll based on the recoil of the weapon plus the number of bullets fired. So if your gun has a recoil of 6, you fired 4 rounds, you've got a target number of 10, you need to make a strength roll. If you fail that strength roll, then your target number is changed by the amount that you failed it by. But you come up with your target number. So the character's fired and they've hit. And they've hit with their burst of 4 bullets. But now for the 3 extra bullets, you need to roll a d6 for each of those to work out where it hits. Now on a 1 or a 2, it hits the same location. On a 3 or a 4, it hits another location in the body as the bullets deviate slightly. And on a 5 and 6, it's a clean miss. So you fire, the first bullet automatically hits, your second bullet in your 4-round burst, we get a 3, so it hits the target in another location. A 4, so that hits in another location as well. And lastly, a 6, so the final bullet just goes skimming off into the darkness and misses completely. Now damage is based upon the weapon and how much you succeeded with your attack roll. So if we turn to page 254, we can see a bunch of weapons. Now let's have a look at the AK-47, preferred weapon of your enemy, if you remember Heartbreak Ridge. So it's got a damage of 7. So if you made your roll and you succeeded by 3, then you're going to do 10 points of damage. Simple as that. Just whatever you succeeded your roll by, you then add to the damage of the weapon. Remembering that any extra dice, so if you're rolling 3d20, then each one of those which succeeded as well adds a +2. It's also worth bearing in mind if you're wearing any armor. Let's turn to page 215 for the armor. We can see that things like a flak jacket offers 1 point of armor to the chest, abdomen, and upper arms. So if you hit in those locations, you get 1 point of armor. Now that's altered by the weapon. Turn on to page 261. We can see a sledgehammer has a penetration of ×4, which means any armor is multiplied by 4 points. So somebody being hit by a sledgehammer would get 4 points of armor from their flak jacket. Being hit by an axe, they would get 3 points of armor because it's multiplied by 3. And assault rifles and guns obviously have lower penetration values. So a assault rifle will tend to have a 2 or a 3. So somebody being shot by an assault rifle who's wearing a flak jacket will get 2 or 3 points of armor, which will deduct from the damage directly. So 10 points of damage will turn to 8 or 7, depending on the weapon they've been shot with. And of course, multiple bullets do multiple wounds, so count against the armor of their locations and are calculated separately for damage. So in our little demonstration combat here, the target has taken 8 points of damage, reduced for their flak jacket. So what does that actually mean? Well, if we turn right towards the back here, we've got calculations for wound thresholds. So we can see the base is calculated out as 10 plus muscle plus fitness ×2 divided by 4. So if we go back to our sample character or NPC, we can see he has a muscle of 8 and a fitness of 7. So 10 plus 8, so 18, plus fitness ×2, so 7 times 2 is 14, so 32, divided by 4, which is 8. So they have a base wound threshold of 8. Now, if they receive 1 wound to the head, or 1 point of damage to the head, they receive a slight wound. If they receive base times 0.5 to the head, it's a moderate wound. So 4 points to the head does a moderate wound. The torso is the base, so 8 points to the torso is a moderate wound. And the limbs are the same. A serious wound is the base in the head, so 8 points. Base times 2, so 16 points. Base times 1.5, so 12 points. And critical wounds, there the head is base times 1.5, so 12 wounds. Base times 3, so 24 for the torso. And the limbs is base times 2, so 16. Well, we did 8 points of damage, and it was to a limb. So that comes out as their base number of wounds. They've taken a moderate. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, if we go back to page 152, we can see moderate injuries. Well, it was in a leg. Well, character suffers a moderate leg injury. The player must succeed in an immediate muscle check or the character falls down. In addition, a slight leg injury involves a -2 skill penalty for all actions involving the use of that leg, and the character cannot move faster than a walk. And each of the types of damage to each location has their own effects. So, taking a critical head damage, a character who sustains a critical head injury instantly becomes unconscious and remains so until the injury is healed to serious. When they're at a serious head injury inflicts a -3 skill penalty to all actions. And right down to slight injuries, which are -1 to all actions, -1 penalty to physical actions for the torso, -1 skill penalty to actions involving the use of that arm, or to the leg, including they cannot sprint for a slight injury to the leg. And advancement. Well, first of all to deal with in advancement is your survival points. If we turn to page 87 here, we can see survival points. These are kind of like force points or hero points in other games. They allow you to spend them on mitigating injury, boosting checks, ignoring fatigue and wound penalties, and aiding treatment and healing back faster, and reducing threat level. And these are earned by doing heroic actions, so surviving a crisis, heroism, entertaining the game, contributing to the story, and putting your character before numbers, so role-playing. And those are handed out, and at character creation, they're based on your age. The older your character, the less survival points they've got. They're basically seen as having spent them living through life. But the other way of advancing is, if we flip to the character sheet, we can see each skill has learning experience. So what does that mean? Turn to page 198. Surest way to get better at a skill is frequent practice. The reflex system represents this through learning experiences. Basically, whenever you get a learning experience, it's because of an extraordinary success in the face of adversity, catastrophic failure, assistance, or role-playing, and you check off one of those. So between adventures, during downtime, you may make 1 percentile roll for each learning experience box with a check in it, to a maximum of 3 rolls for any one skill. If the roll is greater than or equal to your character's age, he gains 1 point in that skill. So a 23-year-old character will roll percentile dice against a 23. They rolled 59, 54, and 93s. They learn nothing. Whereas a 48-year-old character making their 3 rolls, roll a 21, so they gain 1 skill point, 13, and they gain a second, and an 06, and they gain a third. So they've advanced. Actually, those rolls were really low, so the 23-year-old would have made those. But anyway, a older character has much more chance of increasing their skills through learning experiences. However, you can also do training, where an instructor makes skill rolls based on 40 hours of instruction. You've got book learning, you can learn qualifications. Your attributes are basically stuck, although your combat attributes, your CUF and OODA, are exceptions to it. Whenever your character survives a combat scene in which he took at least 1 action other than movement, he gains 1 improvement point. When he enters a period of downtime with 10 accrued IPs, choose either CUF or OODA and increase its value by 1. Then reset his IP point total to 0. So as they go through combats and they actually take part in the combats, they gain improvement points. 10 improvement points can lead to a +1 to their CUF or ODA, leading to them getting more actions in combat. So that is a very brief look through the roles of Twilight 2013. Now I feel like I've done a terrible job there, but I've done the best I can because these rules are not easy. They are overly complex, and I've skipped through a lot of stuff here. We've totally ignored all the stuff about leadership roles. We've ignored the stuff about armored vehicles. There's armor degradation. There's equipment degradation. But these should get you through the first couple of sessions, and you can pick up all that fun stuff later if you really get into Twilight 2013. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, as usual. So please like and subscribe, as it does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. Many, many thanks to you for watching this far. And as always, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.